Welcome to Talkin with Dave. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're great. I'm top shelf and ready to go. I have a purpose for today, and that purpose is to talk about it. I look at a lot of the things people are worried about, concerned about, things that they feel unfulfilled in their life. But if you look at the top 5 things that people are concerned about, one of them is, what am I doing? Why am I here? I get excited about stuff and then it's just like, is this all there is? So it sounds like a small thing. However, the difference between people who don't feel like they have a purpose, a task, a goal, a mission, it's a lot different than those who do. Yeah. So, have you ever had a day that's so busy, so full of stuff to do, your to-do list is a mile long, and yet you go to bed with that nagging thought is, what's the point? My to-do list looked like the list from yesterday, and I got some of it done, but did it matter if I got it done or not? I've got more to do tomorrow. What's the point? Yeah, that's a rough feeling. Some days it's worse than others. But the whole thing is, this isn't about laziness or a lack of effort or just drifting around. It's more about looking on the side of productivity, which is my thing, and feeling lost in regards to, am I accomplishing anything? Some of the stats around this, 70% of employees say they feel disengaged or unfulfilled at work. Now, that's a stat from last year. However, it didn't break it down to the point, how long have they worked there? How many times do you get a new job and you're so excited? You're so pumped up for this new job, partially because it's new, partially because I got away from that old job. And then how long does that last? It's a rhetorical question. But then only 25% of adults say they're living what they were called to do. They know their purpose. They say the 2 most important days of your life is one, the day you're born, and the second, the day you find out why. Not to get too philosophical. I know Simon Sinek does the whole thing about find your why. And I agree, and I love that. I think it's very important, but sometimes it can be, it's noble, but sometimes it can be more of why today? Why in this situation? What gets you going? What makes you feel useful? What makes you feel like you're making a difference? I agree on a lifelong global perspective, and the globe being your world. However, sometimes it's smaller than that. If you feel this way, you're not crazy. It's normal. I think it's healthy to analyze every now and then, what's going on? What am I doing here? I've attained security, satisfaction, comfort, and all of these things. Why am I not fulfilled? Why am I not happy? Why do I want more? Great question. I think you should be upset if you're not asking yourself those questions. Because everybody at some point will say, is this it? Is this it? I know so many people who, upon retirement, for the first at least 3 months, they say, it's the best job I've ever had. My dad said that. This is fantastic. And then if you don't fill your life with something, maybe you travel, maybe you have hobbies, maybe you have other things. You can, that honey-do list, it seems like when you're working, it's never ending. But I've seen people that retire, I can't clean anymore. I have thrown away everything there is to throw away that I don't need. I've organized everything. Now what? A lot of times they go back to work. You know why? Because they feel needed there. But we all ask from time to time, is this it? Is this all there is? You hear people talk about midlife crises. That's not just for men. That's not just going out in your 40s and buying a new Corvette and, joining a tanning club. Oh, that's sad. Career changes. You think all of these things, and I talk about this, all these things that aren't doing it for you, you quit and start doing something else, and you realize, I'm just searching, but I don't know what I'm searching for. That's that whole, what is the source of the stress? Is it homework or play? People will leave a good marriage. People will leave a good job. People will leave a good peer group. When the problem's really not that. Or if you get that ache on a Sunday night thinking, I'm going to start Monday all over again with the same old. Again, it's common. A lot of people do it. And it's not every Sunday. It's some Sundays. Who looks forward to a week when you've got stuff is coming that you dread? I know. But this is more than that. I don't have something to look forward to, something that I feel like I'm accomplishing that's bigger than just, going to work and earning a paycheck and making sure my 401k is flush. So why is it so common? I think it's one reason. I think it's because we're trained that achievement is more than alignment. Okay, yeah, I checked all the boxes that society has for me. All right, I've done that. That's still not aligned with what I am capable of. How many people feel underutilized at work? Yeah. And this used to be, I would be speaking to the men. No, it's everybody. Success has become, and success in air quotes, has become a checklist. Not a compass to show that you're headed in the right direction. And social media, it sells, again, I've said it over and over about highlight reels. These people you don't know. They look happy. They look famous. They look like, emulate me. If they keep having to do that, you think they have that inner peace? Their purpose is clicks. Give me clicks. Yeah. So it's something that you need to strive for, but where is it? What is it? How? Why? All of those things are important. And trust me, I'm not going to get so deep that, I'm going to sit crisscross applesauce and hum and pontificate on the meaning of life. Don't worry about that. If I did, you would be clicking the off button. But I think part of the confusion around what's driving me, what should drive me, what should I strive for, is there's so much noise out there, cultural noise. We're bombarded with messages about what you should do, what you should want, what you should be. Sometimes it's hard to hear your own voice. It's hard to hear what I want. What should I do? And make it very personal, because no one can give you peace. Peace is very important. Also, in society now, there is an achievement addiction. Doing more becomes an identity. If you're resting, that's failure. Now, some people don't have that problem. Some people rest all the time. That also equals failure. But some people think more. There's never enough. They're so busy doing things and accumulating activities, there's no success. Busyness is not the achievement. You lose track of why you started after a while. I got all these things. I got all these plates spinning. You say yes to everybody because you don't want that to be the one thing that matters. That's rough. That's tough. But that's really the society or the culture we're in now, especially, I'll call them, it used to be called yuppies. Remember that? Young urban professionals. I'll say people, I think it's starting younger though. I remember that was the people in their late 20s, 30s, making their way in the world with their with their khakis and their sports coats, and there's certain things that they had to wear. You had to have, remember the old Palm Pilot, the latest electronic gadgets. Now it would be, Apple Watches and all the things that show success and make you get more done or be more busy, not get more done. Yeah, I think that's starting earlier now. I think that's starting in the teen years. I really do. And I think that's burning people out earlier. I think the bottom age is lower and the top age is lower as well, because we eventually learn. Well, the quicker we learn, the better. And that's where the comparison comes in. Somebody else's timeline makes us question our own path. They got there quicker. My goodness, I didn't. They're doing this in their late 20s. Man, it was my late 30s before I did that. What is wrong? Why am I so slow? Or the opposite. They're already there. We're the same age. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, now minutes mean something. You have to respond in minutes. You have to have the answer in minutes. And I think, AI and all these other things, that's just going to compound that. I think it will. But that comparison, that leads to confusion. I think, too, the fear of disappointing other people. I don't know if this is as prevalent as it used to be, but the big one was parents. I don't want to disappoint my parents. All right? I don't want to disappoint bosses or my spouse or my kids. Oh, disappointing my kids, I can't even imagine, although I'm sure I have. Peer group. There's so much pressure, but fear of disappointing others, that's so confusing. It's hard to live your purpose or your reason to be when you're letting other people have a piece of your consciousness around expectations. Set your own expectations. Others' expectations change without warning. Whew, it's rough. And then I think, too, we're so busy, we don't take time to, let's sit back and reflect a little bit. There's a real lack of that. And when I am not at my best, or when I feel turmoil, I usually can go back and think, I didn't hit that pause button. And just think about what's going on, where I am. Am I drifting? You've got that. I know a lot of times when I do the map program, you set it on, of course, drive, but then if it's close, you set it on walk. I'm like Joey on Friends. I got to get in the map so I know which way to go. But a lot of times you have where you're going, you have where you are, but sometimes it's hard to decide, okay, do I go right or left here? And when you go the wrong way, you see that dot where you are drift away from the target, from the destination. I think we do that way in life a lot of times. When we get so busy, we don't have that dot and we don't realize it. And then all of a sudden we check and it's, oh my goodness, how did I get here? I'm so far away. And then that's discouraging. So there's reasons for confusion. But the thing is, a purpose is, it's not a lightning bolt. A purpose, it's more of a lighted pathway once you see it. It's just not, sometimes we all of a sudden realize it, and then what we usually realize, it was here all along. So you have to reframe some things. Purpose isn't necessarily found, it's revealed or it's formed over time. It's not this, Paul on the road to Damascus situation a lot of time. It's steady. It's growing and aligns more and more over time, and it becomes clear. And you'll look back at other things that, it was here all along. But what matters to you and how you spend your time, that's so important because the two are usually aligned. People who feel they have a purpose live an average of 10 years longer and report 63% higher well-being, meaning contentment or peace, because they feel like they're living and working for something. Some examples of this slow built or evolution of a purpose. You got a janitor, cleans up, very important work. A lot of people would think that's a menial task. However, that person's, the correct mindset would be, all right, I'm at NASA. I work here. I help keep the place clean. I help others focus on their job. So I'm helping put a man on the moon. That's fantastic. What a great attitude. Or a single mom who's raised 3 decent human beings. I'd say my mom. She's not single. She's passed on. But when she was alive, I think she raised 3 decent human beings, 4 counting my dad. And maybe they realize, and she did later on, maybe mentoring others is a calling. You know what she actually did? She would have young wives that, were married a short time. She would bring them over to her house, and she would teach them how to cook, make basic stuff, basic Southern stuff, sweet tea, gravy. She taught them how to make gravy, not in a packet, the real thing. And then while they were there and they were having fun cooking and doing all this stuff, she would talk about other stuff. She would talk about relationships. So her and dad were married over 60 years before she passed. So little things like that. But she took that on as a bit of a calling. Or a guy who is busy in corporate America pivots and starts taking care of kids after school. The after school programs, volunteering his time because he's seen a change and kids aren't getting what they need. Yeah, he's got a lot of experience. He can be looked up to for all the right reasons. My wife is a great example. She got her, in the kids' schools when they were in elementary and middle school, intermediate school, junior high, whatever you call it where you are, she would substitute teach. Just because, first of all, I'm going to make sure the school's cool, make sure my kids are okay. But it was incredible because the first week of school, they needed subs. Who would have thought? However, they were having a lot of trouble getting substitute teachers for like special needs kids or kids with autism especially. And she started doing that, and wow, she found a real passion for that. She went back to school and got her master's in teaching because she found a connection with these kids with special needs and a real need there because they were having trouble getting people to sub. So sometimes it doesn't come, with a flash of light. It develops. So if you don't know what your purpose is, that's okay. We're going to talk about finding that in a bit. But it's important. So the thing is, knowing you have a purpose, and it can be a hobby or anything like this that you feel peace in doing. It's important. It's important for several reasons. Having a purpose brings clarity. It eliminates this nagging push in your head as far as, is this really worth it? Because if you have a purpose, of course it is. Of course it is. I'm feeling some calling to do this. It takes confusion out of the way and gives you direction because it's becoming, and the more you do it, the clearer and clearer it is. It also makes even those small tasks in relation to it, they're more intentional. They're more worthwhile. They're more needed. I can tell you when my wife started doing that, she got her degree and she got all the way up to she was vice principal of a school. Anything she does, she rises to the top of it. But that allowed her to do some other things, the small tasks of keeping a clean classroom and taking out the garbage and things that accumulate over time. Because she was at all different levels, she saw, this is important. Because this leads to that if it's not done. Even those small tasks became intentional. Also, purpose, it calms your mind. You're not all over the board because now you can focus more and deselect. If that's not involved, in making the purpose more of a reality, well, you cannot do it, which reduces your stress and your anxiety because you're giving your actions meaning, purpose, meaning, whatever you want to call it. And it shifts that focus away from all these distractions and second guessing. You're going to waste less time because now, hey, I've got somewhere to put this. Also, it creates some space for contentment while you're there. I'm not where I want to be, but I know I'm on that path. All of this will accumulate and create momentum. And it's not just for big things. You're not solving the world's problems necessarily. You're not establishing world peace necessarily. You're not changing climate change, which is a moving target. However, it's not for the big things. It can be found just in some of the everyday things. Cleaning, cooking, calling someone, reading, all of that. You're going to do it better and with more contentment because you know where you're channeling your energy. Even in things that aren't tied to your purpose, it's still important because you've got that peace. And it doesn't have to be life-changing, just meaningful to you. No one else has to see it. The world's going to say, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? I got this. This is for me. And you do it. It's incredible how when you do something with intention, it changes how that feels. If you're doing the same thing without any purpose or without any intention, I'm wasting my time. But if it's part of something, the exact same thing is part of a purpose, feels different. It feels different. Also, and I love this, purpose enhances productivity. It increases your motivation. It increases your focus. Less multitasking when it's for a purpose. It helps you finish what you started because you know why you're doing it. Even the smallest accomplishments feel satisfying. The smallest results, especially when they have a reason behind them. I remember, not to just go on and on about my wife, but with working with autistic children, some of them they don't like touch. Other situations they love to hug. Autistic children, for the most part, they don't like touch. And when she would come home and say so and so wanted to give me a hug, or when someone was non-vocal, they actually came up to her and asked a question or said something. Some would say that's not small. However, the world would. And that was just the biggest accomplishment. And it more cemented that purpose in her mind. And sometimes a purpose is temporary. What brings peace today may change tomorrow. That's normal. You haven't abandoned it. Maybe that purpose was for today. Life changes. Your sense of purpose should evolve with it. And to me, that's exciting. That can be as much as today, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to meet so-and-so for lunch. And I know they've been through a tough time. I'm going to let them know this, and this, that I'm here for them. I can't comprehend what they're going through, but I'm going to be here for them and help them through it. All right. Maybe you accomplish that day. Stay aware and adjust your purpose as needed. And some are overreaching, but almost everything should have a why. Why am I doing this? Why is it important? That helps you set your mind to what you need to do. And then that, by setting your mind to it, being present, I've talked about that so much. That's the best gift you can give, is give somebody your time and attention. But intentional actions are going to allow you to be fully in the moment. I'm here for this. This is being here will allow me to accomplish the purpose for being here. So I'm not going to let my mind wander. I'm not going to be scrolling my phone. I'm not going to be drift because, first of all, others aren't going to be satisfied, the reason I'm here. And then second, I'm going to beat myself up later. Oh, what did they say? I lost my concentration there for a minute, and now I'm drifting. Choosing that purpose creates that that peace during the situation and after. And it doesn't have to be deep. I'm not talking about, Gandhi stuff here. It's just got to be real to you. It may mean more to you than whoever you're dealing with. That's good, because when you leave, you're going to take you with you. And then the bottom line is purpose, even in small doses, it grounds you. It won't solve everything forever. And if you think it will, then maybe you need to pull back a little bit. But it's going to settle your spirit for a while. That's why that contentment is there. That's why people with purpose live longer, happier lives. And that moment of peace is always worth the effort. Always. All right. So let's look at how you don't have to quit whatever you're doing to follow your purpose. You don't have to quit your job, sell everything you have, and move to Bali. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. You don't have to quit. Purpose can be an as-you-go thing. So purpose can exist even with what you're already doing, because you can shift how you do something without changing what you do. Yeah, I'll just do this. I'm still going to do it, but do it a little differently. I'm still going to work, but I'm going to notice certain things at work that fulfill my purpose, that's bigger than just doing my job. I'm going to add some intention and meaning to what I'm normally doing, my normal job, my normal role, my normal routine. I drive the same way every day, and there's a guy on the corner. How is engaging or not engaging, how is that going to align with your purpose? Because really, a lot of times your purpose is hiding in plain sight. So be more aware. And it's like the purple car theory. Once you have a purpose, you're going to see opportunities to engage all day long in things you never saw before. It's going to be everywhere. And it's great, but you're not changing anything as far as your routine or your job. So purpose doesn't require a dramatic exit most of the time. You don't need to burn bridges or abandon stability or say goodbye to all your friends and all of this. Please. You don't have to sell your dog and blah, blah. Please. Small steps, very small steps, but in the right direction, they're going to be more powerful than a lot of these big leaps, these dramatic changes. So you can pursue purpose part-time. You don't have to change your commitments. You may want to, but that's just the small things. They create momentum, and it can evolve no matter where you are. We talked about that, how your purpose can change, whatever, but sometimes your role becomes more, I'll say, fulfilling as your mindset shifts. You find your purpose, and it's not really what your vocation is. When you fulfill that, your purpose, while at work, it's going to make you enjoy your job more. Fantastic. It can grow through all different things. You're going to find openings, whether it's, somebody wants your advice, somebody wants your creativity, maybe others are asking you to help them more. You're going to see the signs where before you didn't see that. And then, hey, that can make you adjust your approach in other things in your life. That's why purpose gives peace and fulfillment. And then, honestly, integration into your life with whatever purpose that you're looking for, it's better than an exit strategy. Some people just want to get away. Okay, well, you may have other issues, but integrating your purpose into your current life instead of trying to escape it, that's less threatening. You're more likely to do it. Your current resources and skills and platform to build something is very important because, like we said earlier, this didn't happen overnight. It evolved. A purpose and the timing of understanding, it's very important. I know many times when I have done things that I felt like part of my purpose 15 years ago, there's no way. I would have failed miserably. I wouldn't have noticed it, but if I had, it wasn't the right time. So sometimes your current situation has prepared you for this. A purpose is not it's not a destination that we get to and it's no. It's the path that we travel. You know, we a lot of times, and I'd say most times, you don't have a destination of your purpose. You find it, you walk into it. Whether if it's short term, all right, you may accomplish what you did, but that's going to create more purpose. But most people who have a purpose do it till the day they die and enjoy it, and it brings them peace because it creates stability. Keeping your current job or responsibilities, that can help, I don't know, fund either literally, mentally, your purpose and supports it. This is what I do this so I can do that. It's great. I know a lot of people who had hobbies, who had expectations, who had all these things. Once they found, something that was bigger than themselves, even though they enjoyed it. I know people who played golf constantly. When they retired, they played golf. You can only play so much golf. And then they started teaching kids in golf. They had different things. They volunteered, still involved in golf, but it became more of a purpose. Never thought of that before. That peace of mind also allows better decision making because you're settled, and that peace is not. It's not satisfaction as far as, okay, I did it, I'm satisfied. No, it's satisfaction as far as I'm on the right path. And there's a lot of wisdom in building a purpose on a solid foundation instead of just doing something crazy. That's why a leap of faith is one thing, but if there's no safety net, then you're probably not going to go for your purpose anyway, and then you're going to be sitting around wondering, okay, is this all there is? So I know what some of you may be thinking, and it's one of the bigger problems and why we're talking about this today is, all right, I don't have one, Dave. It's not clear. And for most people, it's not. At first, I was probably early 40s before I realized why I think I'm here and my purpose and things that appeared to be good at, things that generated positive results. So the thing is, there's some real practical ways to notice it or to let it emerge. Don't push stuff down, let it emerge, and then find it. It's not in a fortune cookie. Who knows? It may be. maybe you're so hard-headed it has to be in a fortune cookie before you're going to look at it. So just a few things. First of all, pay attention to what bothers you. I know. Well, Dave, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. We're not supposed to let stuff bother us. We're supposed to deal with it and get through it. And yeah, right. However, think about it. What injustice or inefficiency or something that's just ridiculous gets to you, and you just can't ignore it? Because sometimes your purpose is hiding in your frustration or something that gets under your skin. Maybe you're wired to fix it. Yeah. A guy hated how disconnected his community was. Started hosting neighborhood dinners. That was a purpose. O'Connor Fest. How that came out. 10 years we did that in the cul-de-sac. That's how that came about. I found out this person who lived here, 3 houses down, this person lived here. They had lived there for 30 years and never met. Yeah. People didn't know each other in a cul-de-sac that had lived there for decades. How was this possible? So I moved in. How do you get people together? Have a party. That's what we did. That was because it bothered me. Look, I'm introducing you and I just moved here. What the? And so that's what we do. Now, that's not noble. I like a good party too. However, that's an example of how maybe something that small, it had a purpose. And I put big signs up celebrating Viva Court. That was the name of the cul-de-sac. It's not about me. It's not about them. It's about this place we live that is so cool. So notice what irritates you. Also, what gets you going? What gets you excited? Even if you're tired and just want to sit down, there's something. What makes you forget to check your phone? That's a good one for now. Yeah. When you're aligned with something meaningful, time just disappears. And energy grows as you're doing it. Pay attention to what fuels you, what makes you feel alive. That doesn't mean it's always easy, but it matters and it changes how it feels. I know a lot of times working in my yard, I may put that off, but if a buddy needs my help working in his, I can go help him and wow, look at that. I may even work harder because it's his yard and hey, we need to get this done and I'm helping this guy out. It changes how some of the same things feel. So what gets you going? What when you finish, it's like, man, I'm glad I did that. I didn't have time to do that, but I did it anyway. So what energizes you? Also, what would I do even if I didn't get paid for it? Don't think about turning it into a job. Thinking about the value of doing it rather than the financial reward. We've over-commercialized purposes. We've over-commercialized things, for a long time, and I'll still do it. Any faith-based stuff, I don't charge for that because I think that's part of my purpose. I want people to feel better, less stressed, less worried, more productive. And sometimes it's not about the money. No, I need to get paid sometimes because a purpose doesn't pay the light bill sometimes. However, we've over commercialized that. Not every meaningful thing has to become a business. You can still do it in private and still it's just as fulfilling and gives you that peace. So don't try to turn it into some big institution because a lot of times that points the finger toward other things rather than the purpose. Listen to compliments that you get that you normally would just dismiss. People point that out. Yeah, you shrug it off. Man, you're really good with kids. Yeah, well, I got a lot of nieces and nephews. Or you're really good with old people. Yeah. You know what? Every time I come here, I feel better when I leave. You got a knack for this. You got a knack for that. You can really visualize stuff well. You can see the end product before you even start. I had to, blah, 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 blah. Don't shrug that off. Think about it. Think about it because that is a hint toward a possible purpose. If several people have said it, you're really a good listener. I really appreciate that. You can explain complicated things in a very simple manner, and I get it. You're a great coach. You calm people down. You're a bit of a peacemaker. Yeah, you're a fixer. I know in several companies I've been called the fixer. I've also been called the cleaner, and not as far as tidiness. However, you really got good organizational skills. Whatever that is. When people say stuff like that, it's not an accident. Don't just shrug it off. Listen to it. Sometimes others see your value before you do. Listen to it. And especially if it's happening often or by multiple people. I love it. Don't just brush it off. I believe this as much as anything. And I've got one coming. I'm almost ready to talk about it, about everything we learn in our childhood to use later. Recall and application. Revisit your childhood clues about your purpose. What did you just do naturally as a kid? Before you were told to do it. What drew you? What were you just naturally good at? Before somebody told you practicality. Your younger self, it wasn't distracted by bills or Facebook or all the social media or LinkedIn biographies. Go back to that kid who organized the games in the circle, who told stories, who would sketch something in the ground before you built it, or took up for that other little kid that, he's new, he's not as good. You picked him before the others did, before the better players. Those were hints about a possible purpose. So many. I could give you 100 about hints as a childhood. A lot of times, though, it happens now, and you're good at something, and you think, somebody will ask, when did you learn? You know what? I remember sitting under a tree in John Boston's yard when we organized a lemonade stand. And then we decided to give the money to blah, 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 blah. Oh, I could, they keep coming right now. I can think of several. Okay, another thing. Do something, anything, just move. You can't steer a parked car. You can't do it. When I was trying to learn to drive when I was 8, they wouldn't give me the keys. It's parked. I can't turn the steering wheel. Purpose is rarely discovered through just thinking by yourself sedentarily. 5-syllable word. You got to take action. Do something. Volunteer. Join a group. Start a project. Talk to people about stuff that interests you. Even though you may think it's crazy or whatever, somebody's going to, A lot of times purpose shows up more often in motion than just in meditation. I can say almost all the time. As you go, it will come to you. A lot of people think, and this is a little morbid, and I apologize. However, it's big in the South. They still do it. Some people only get the paper, a real paper, a paper, rolled up paper they deliver. Open it up. The first thing they go to is the obituaries. Who died? One thing to think about is, what would it say? What did you accomplish? What did you do? Or would it be 2 lines? Born, died, the time for the service. What would it say? And you don't do it for other people. What if you were reading your own obituary? I should have done better. So last thing I'll say, because I'm not going to end on the obituary, is ask better questions. Questions are the answer to all of your questions. Who benefits when I'm at my best? When I am clicking on all cylinders, who benefits? Think about it. Think about family, friends, peer groups, all of that. When you're at your best, who's benefiting? All right? What would be missing if I didn't show up? Same group, work, home, peers, all of that. What would be missing? Make the list. What is one thing I regret never trying? All right. And then the second part is, if I don't try it now, what would be on the list? I just never tried that. Regret? Ooh. Exponential waste of time. And then another one. If I had 6 months to live, what would I stop doing immediately? And what would I do? Because if I stop doing this, that creates a pocket of time. Now, how do I fill that pocket of time? Good questions. Yeah. You don't find your purpose like you stumble upon that lost sock from the dryer. No. You notice it through patterns, through curiosity, through movement, through asking questions. And it doesn't show up complete. This is what it is. It grows, it changes, it expands, just like you. So it's important. So define what matters most to you. Look at your time. If it matters, you're going to find the time and energy to do it. You are. And then choose to contribute. Choose contribution over comparison. Focusing on whatever you're doing, adding value to it, you're not going to measure yourself against somebody else. You're going to look at the value you add, which is that may grow into a real purpose. And also, building identity around meaning is important. Yeah, okay. This was important that I did this. Other people are better at it. Other people accumulated more. Other people's metrics are higher. Hey, but it meant something to me. And the main thing is just slow down and listen. Just listen to what people are saying. I said earlier, don't listen to yourself, talk to yourself, but sometimes you got to listen to how it feels. Listen to that contentment. Listen to, man, that was rough work. Boy, it sure did feel good when I finished that. It sure did feel good seeing those kids, not just seeing those kids enjoy those bikes we built for them. They didn't see me enjoy it. I got the payoff right here. So peace doesn't come from checking every box. It comes from finally deciding which boxes matter. There's so many out there. You don't have to quit your job and move to Bali, although that sounds pretty good, or start a nonprofit. You don't have to do that. You do have to stop sleepwalking around. And then when you wake up, what is this for? How did I get here? This life doesn't really belong to me anymore. Bull feathers. I am giving you permission to stop performing and start producing through alignment. Alignment with your purpose. Not all movement. You may waste a little time, but it's not all progress. But peace starts with knowing where you're headed and why. Stop drifting. Know where you're headed and why you're headed that way. You don't need a new life. No, you just need a clear reason to live the one you got. I hope this helps. It's very important. It's life-changing, and it's your life-changing to know why you're doing what you're doing. It's fantastic. Please reach out to me. Let me know if this hit the mark. Several of you have said something about it, and you need it, and you're drifting. Hopefully it helps. Hit me up, david@otalks.com or dave@otalks.com. I answer them all. Go to otalks.com. A lot of you are responding on there, and I appreciate it. I check those every morning and then respond before I go to bed that night at some point, usually before block 1, between 2 and 3, and between 1 and 2, and then right before I go to bed. So you will get an answer. Thanks so much. I appreciate the support. I appreciate everything you're doing for me. And I might appreciate most of all you talking with Dave. Giddy up.